employers before we went into dispute, get no responses whatsoever. So as far as we're concerned, it just wasn't there. Miss Trevelyan wasn't there really long enough to make a difference, to be honest, in this. And to be honest, the dispute almost went into hibernation during the leadership, the Tory leadership campaign. So that's just not worth much more comment on that. The current team is slightly different. They engage. We've had a number of meetings with either the Secretary of State or with the Rail Minister. They continually offer to use their offices to try and facilitate an agreement. However, the evidence that we get from the RDG in particular is that they cannot make any agreement without sign off from the DFT and the government ministers, and consequently any time we make any progress, it goes back and then it comes back and it's changed again.
Yeah, Mr. Lynch.
Yeah, so I believe this whole situation, the dispute and all the elements of it have been conceived in the DFT, going back to when Mr. Heaton Harris was the rail minister under Mr. Shapps. So this is Mr. Shapps' project, if you like, and this dispute is his bequest to the rest of us. So we've all got to deal with it. And I believe he's still involved quite heavily when the documents go round Whitehall. I think there's a steer from the business department, and that's fine. But Mr. Harper and Mr. Merriman are very pleasant to deal with. They're a much better relationship. I think we'd all say that on a one-to-one and dealing with even, I'm sure, with the employers. It's a much better relationship, but I always say it's about product. The template has been set by previous administrations in the DFT, and there is a strong hand of the Treasury on top of all of that about what's going on. And they say to us directly that we cannot move very far on this, the merits of your own dispute, because what it will say about health, education, and every other public servant that we've got involved with all the issues going on now. But it is. You can tell it is, because in ScotRail we've made a settlement. In Transport for Wales we've all made settlements. Merseyrail, which is outside their bounds, settlements. Tyne and Wear Metro, outside the DFT, settlements. London Transport, settlements. Everywhere where the DFT's hand is not the control on the tiller, we have made settlements in this industry, and we've made them in the private sector. As far as I'm concerned, we still deal with private engineering companies, even cleaning contractors, bus companies, ferry companies, all sorts of people in transport make settlements with our unions, apart from those ones directly controlled by the DFT, and it's in the contract. The service contract that they have with the Department for Transport gives to the Secretary of State ultimate power in the negotiating room, even though he's not there. So the entire project is a conception of the DFT.
And that leads me on quite well to, you said previously to the committee that Scottish Government or Scottish politicians essentially, it's your impression that they want to resolve the issue, and obviously since then issues have been resolved, but politicians down here want to exacerbate the issue. I wonder if you could maybe elaborate on that, but with any sort of specifics regard to some of the issues at play, whether it's driver-only operation or whether it's Sunday working practices or no compulsory redundancies, etc. What's your take on a different approach? And that obviously applies to Wales and what have you as well.
Yeah, and I think it's true in the devolved authorities in Merseyside and those other areas as well, and London. They do want to find solutions, and I think what we get from the DFT is provocations in language, and also what is put into the documents. But you can also see it the way that they run the railway. When there's a Network Rail strike, they shut Scotland and they shut large parts of Wales, and they choose to run the parts that connect to England. It's quite cynical in my view, the way they work it. And I know, because I've met the Scottish transport ministers and we engage with senior people in transport portfolio, I think it's called, in the Welsh Government, that they are seething about the way they're treated. They don't get an input. Almost a Stalinist obsession, can I say it, in the DFT about central control And you can see that in the contracts. British Rail would never have tolerated the amount of interference from the Secretary of State. The chairman of British Rail would have been told to get on with running that business and be accountable to bodies like this, and the Minister, of course, and to Parliament, but on a report-back basis, not an interference basis. The DfT is not allowing the Scottish and Welsh authorities to have any influence on this dispute, even though they are completely affected by it.
Sure. And as I for TSA get anything, or TSSA get anything to add to that? I'm conscious I need to move on to minimum service levels.
I mean, I think we've seen the massive briefing process that's gone on through the media and elsewhere, and it can only be happening from the Ministry and the DfT. And every time that happens, it hampers any ability to realistically sit down in good conscience and try and find a way forward. It won't solve the current dispute, because by the time it comes through Parliament, goes through the Lords and becomes law, and then the various activities associated with it from all the different companies sitting down and agreeing on separate levels, we're an awful long way away from actually having any current impact. What it does do is exacerbate the current situation, but also I don't see how it can operate safely. I remember when there was a National Fire Brigade dispute, we came to as an industry and said we had to